Hi, everyone. I believe that we are live. It seems so. Um, uh, Welcome, everyone, to this caffeine live stream. We are here to talk about the Caffeine version 3, this a major release that we just dropped. And with caffeine being perhaps or not perhaps, it is the biggest change that we have ever shipped. It's a complete rethink of how our platform builds applications, and today we're going to talk you through it. The whole rebuild, what's different, why we did it this way, and what it unlocks next. With me today, I'm Kristofer. I'm evangelist here at Caffeine, and with me today I also have Kepler. There are very much hands-on CTO. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. Excited to be right after the release. I hope everybody that's here, the ones that are trying caffeine already, have noticed the improvements of this release. And yeah, excited to unpack this.
Yeah, you could say, of course, when we release something, there's a mixed bag of feedback that comes in. But for this release, we had a peak of usage, of course, coming in just after the release, which saw the response times going up. But then overall, I would say that it's overwhelmingly positive feedback that has come in.
Yeah, we already started to see actually on socials the builds that people have been doing. I saw some games, people creating more complex applications, people getting on projects unstuck from previous versions. Yeah, I think the sentiment is very good so far. But excited to hear more in the coming days.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, me too. So if for instance, someone watching is not familiar with caffeine, I think maybe now is a good time to just do like a super brief intro to what caffeine is, why it exists, and why you should care, essentially.
Yes. Well, it's interesting you come up with it. So, well, caffeine really lets you bring ideas into the digital world. And so far, if you think about it, you don't need to be somebody technical, that you can create things yourself, or you need to be able to hire some team to do things for you. So it was very hard actually to bring ideas to, well, to appearing, to launch products, to do maybe your own social media that you want to do with your family. It was very hard to do these kind of things. And with Caffeine, we enable people with plain English or their own language because, well, Caffeine doesn't yet support multiple languages, but the AI that Caffeine runs on does. So you can talk to it with your own language. And it then creates, and you can iterate and create those applications. You can iterate on those products. And I think that's amazing to see, really.
Yeah. I agree. I had this conversation yesterday with someone on Discord about, I guess, human potential and flourishing, or something along those lines, and that caffeine and essentially all these app builder tools that pop up, they have the potential of unlocking human potential for the rest of us, and not the rest of us, but the 99% that did not happen to be born with a geek brain and being able to become developers. So that is a future that at least I look very much forward to see what all that unleashed potential, what it will sort of lead to.
I mean, imagine that so far, like if you were, maybe even if you are a little bit technical, let's say you are a product manager, you had still to convince your company, for example, to build on your ideas. So you had to go and create your PowerPoints or your slides. You had to create some documents convincing people. Now you can directly create something and present to them, which is even a replacement for slides, right? You can create your presentations directly with the running product. And that's very exciting, actually.
Yeah. No, it's super exciting. I brought up the caffeine landing page. I think we said that we were not perhaps going to go through this in detail, but maybe we can talk a little bit about what prompted us to to make this transition? I mean, there was of course a version 1 of Caffeine, or we released it last summer, and then it more like a proof of concept, and then there was a version 1, and then there was a version 2, and now we finally have landed in version 3. What prompted us to do such a significant rewrite of the code base for version 3?
Yes, I think it's the code base, but overall, I think the overall product feeling, right? So we started iterating with Caffeine as AI was still getting to us, right? So I think many of the AI, the LLM providers, they were not great yet. So we couldn't actually build amazing applications out of the box. And as we started iterating on it, and we started very early actually iterating and experimenting with these things, we built the first version of Caffeine that people saw on the launch event in June the 3rd of last year. And then after that, that was an alpha that we did a demo. Then we went to SF and we launched Caffeine Alpha to the public. And people could start to experiment on that first version of Caffeine. And that was very much our first release of Caffeine that enables you to build this type of applications and orchestrate things. Well, that was not yet a complete product end-to-end, right? A product end-to-end, you want to have a place to go for help. You want to talk to support. You want to be able to understand what the product is about. You want to be able to navigate to things in an easy way, right? And that's where we started iterating on things on, well, V2. And that's where we started iterating on the agentic capabilities. And we started iterating on what does it mean to build applications? How do we deploy applications? How do we build in a way that is seamless to build these full stack applications for users? And we landed on V2. And well, V2 was not very well received by many. And there was reasons for this, right? So some projects got stuck and people were not able to iterate, or you would maybe ask a question and during the modification, Caffeine will not follow it properly.
Yeah.
And we, well, heard all of that from many users, and we ended up taking all this feedback in, all the observability. We talked with users and we got all this feedback, and we started re-architecting. Like, what does it mean to build an application? And we have really ambitious goals, really, because we don't want to build just prototypes, right? We want to build production applications, and we want to build applications that people can actually put in a sovereign cloud, which is even much more differentiator than any other app builder out there. We deploy to a distributed cloud that is decentralized, that you kind of have all your data that you can own end to end, right? And that's why we deploy to the internet computer. And we started doing all of these, and we re-architected completely the product. So now you have a knowledge base, you have a help center, you have, well, the new landing page, you have pricing, you have affiliates program that will start soon, and the whole agentic experience. And that's really just the beginning of this, well, new release that builds the foundation for the future.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's really worth pushing on a few of the things you said. Again, that the fact that we have not chosen the easiest path forward. We could have continued just hosting everything on AWS and etc., like some of the competition is doing. And but we truly believe in the importance of not only like data sovereignty, but also like application sovereignty, and that it would represent a major unblock for humanity as a whole, right? That the guardians that control who gets to write which app doesn't serve us well in all cases. So you being able to write your own app and actually own the app and own the data would be a major unlock. But yeah, and also it's worth highlighting that the fact that LLMs, AI models have become so much better for the last over the last 6 months. So the product that we are presenting now wouldn't have been possible to ship last summer. So we have been in a stage of a constant, continuous pivoting ever since. Not pivoting, but a continuous rewrite and But now we are there. Now we are at a place where actually the models have caught up and can deliver what we want, right? So now Caffeine can build this way more complex apps. It can handle larger projects without running into context limits. It can recover from errors much better than it used to do, and it can also show you what it's doing while it's working, right?
Yes, I mean, right now, so first of all, we acknowledge that the latency could be better. But right now we are focusing on quality, really. We want you to be able to come to Caffeine and put in a complex prompt, put in, I want my idea, I want these requirements to be fulfilled, and Caffeine will do all the work necessary to get it done. And it will go to iterations, it will break down the work, it would evaluate quality, it would visually see the application and errors that it could produce, so that in the end, it produces something that has good functional behavior, but also good quality in terms of branding. So the idea is really that it can produce you something that you're proud of, that you can then show to others to use. It's not only to build, really, I guess I want to reemphasize this a bit, that's not only to build prototypes. It's really, you should be able to build more complex applications.
Yeah, and on that topic, I think we can say this publicly, that you know, Caffeine is able to take much more complex prompts than in previous versions. So yes, latency for this the first 24 hours of Caffeine V3 have sometimes been long. Generation takes a bit of time, but take that into account, that you can give Caffeine way more complex prompts, then that is not as much of an issue. Of course, we want to decrease latency, but yeah, I told you that I just to try it, I pasted a spec that was like 4 pages for like regular pages like this long into Caffeine, and then it went to work for it went to work for over an hour, and then in the end it had implemented the full spec, and that definitely was not possible before. So in general, I recommend users at this stage to try to bundle together a few changes now instead of just doing one thing, because now Caffeine actually can handle it. I think we plan to view a video at this stage of the conversation to then talk a little bit about the high level view or what users might be noticing directly when they look at Caffeine. Do you think we should pause it during when it plays, or should we let it play out for its 50 seconds, no sound?
Yeah, let's play out.
Yeah, no commentary. So for you, those of you watching now, watch now, 50 seconds, and pay attention. I'll comment a little bit. Log in using internet identity. You paste the prompt there. We use the instant build mode that builds the app without asking. Okay, I'll stop commenting.
Yeah, you can see it breaking down the work.
Yeah. Breaking down the work. All checks passed, deploying your application. And in this case, I just built a fun application to celebrate the launch of V3. So it's essentially a one prompt application that throws out a bunch of emojis over the screen while you... Yeah, so maybe now we can pause it and look at the various sections. So the UI has gotten a major overhaul in general, I mean, right?
Yes, I mean, right now we focus on, we have 2 teams now. I know some of you had in the past many teams. Now we focus on 2, on the high importance ones. And this is in dark mode as well. And we now focus on making it easy for the user with some examples. You have this direct prompt box. You have 2 modes, I guess, for those of you who have just noticed there. There's instant and guided mode. For those of you that want to try it out, instant mode is the best one, because Caffeine will just well, it will infer a lot of the functionality that you want, so you get something out quickly. If you want a bit more of a guided experience, then guided mode is what we added. And the idea is the guided mode would kind of try to gather your requirements, right? So the same way as you would go to a company to ask for, oh, I want to build this idea, and some person in the company will ask you, okay, what is the idea is about? Do you want to build A, B, or C? And it would unpack your ideas that you had in your head, but maybe it's not clear for who's consuming that information. Now it will try to unpack and extract that information out of you so that it has enough context to build exactly what you want. So
are you saying that AIs are no mind readers?
Yes, they're not. Yes, it's a genie that you still need to unpack a lot. Yes, they need context.
Yeah. So the guided mode is great to sort of pull out the information of you. If you give it a vague prompt, of course you will get a vague result. So then guided mode is great for that.
Yes, and you can see it on the UI as well, right? We try to guide users to instant mode being the default, right? So that users could get quickly into something running. But now you see it that, well, directly points the user into this prompt, and then they go into the chat. On the chat, they have always feedback. So the idea is you should always understand when Caffeine is doing something, right? So whether it's writing back to you, in which case you will see this ... these 3 dots, because Caffeine is writing back to you some message, and then you will see it, or it's actually breaking down the work. So in this case here, you submitted a prompt, and then Caffeine is going to discover, okay, what's this project about? How do I break it down? And then after it breaks it down, then it gives you steps as it's doing things. So it's giving you like the reasoning it's doing behind the scenes. So, okay, now I'm breaking down the design, right? Now I'm understanding what pages I need to build. And then as it's doing that, it's kind of giving you feedback. So you'll be able to, well, follow along as it's doing things. And afterwards, because not always it works, right? So you can imagine, well, this thing now you ask it, and then Caffeine will start to struggle. But then when it starts to struggle, you'll also see feedback. You'll see feedback telling you, hey, I couldn't actually build this yet. And it will tell you, I'm retrying with this different approach, right? And I think this is very important to note, because this is where people will notice a lot of the difference as well between the previous versions and this version, is that this version auto recovers from errors, right? So it kind of learns from them, unpacks those errors, and retries different approaches until it reaches something of quality. And you can see we giving this feedback on the UI over and over again.
Yeah, that is one of the things I wanted to say, but forgot when we talked about latency and how long time Caffeine works. That is like one of the really main distinguishing factors from the previous version, that it doesn't get stuck at the same way that the old Caffeine did. So it, like you said, it recovers, it retries, and then and I described to you how I left the computer, like I was a little bit giving up, and like came back 20 minutes later. Then like boom, here's your draft preview.
Yes, yeah, and then after it works, well, it will deploy it, and then you directly see it also here. You see it here. Well, there's this window embedded where you see the draft. Make it easy. So for those of you that are not technical, you'll always be faced, default is showing the app, right? We also have specs, and specs is small of overview of what the app is about.
Yeah, I actually brought up the Caffeine interface also, live interface, so we can, nice. So cool. We have the specs, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so the spec gives you like a little bit of like some tags, category of the application, some small overview of what the app is about and the key features. So this keeps it ongoing as the application evolves. It will capture the latest of the application. And then for those of you that are technical, you can also see the code, right? And it's now more of an interface that developers are used to. But we are not at the moment focusing on developers on the UI. So for those of you that actually want to export things that are developers, the interface is read-only, but you'll always be able to connect then, well, your GitHub and export it. So here you'll be able to then, well, I want to actually look it over. I want to take it out of Caffeine because in Caffeine, we really believe strongly that we do not want to vendor lock anybody in. So we allow people to just, you can export, and in the interface, you can see all of these now clearly.
Yeah. And I think also we have advertised that we are working on both an import functionality so that you can sort of manually import a whole project again, and also this more the CLI, the more integrated approach where you would sort of interact with the CLI in your terminal to deploy your project during building, so you can build it locally and then deploy it to Caffeine.
Yes. The other thing we also added here to make it easy for people, you'll see this V1 on top right? So Caffeine maybe does an iteration that you don't agree with. So you'll always be able to, go to different versions and restore, right? So you can restore here in an easy way. And this is the first version of this interface. We are actually working on an improved version of this that will make it easy for you to identify at what points in time these versions relate to. But it's an ongoing process. And I think the foundation now is there for us to really be able to make it easy for users to navigate.
Maybe we have reached the end of this video, that the application has been launched, and we said to talk a little bit about this shift in the sort of the build pipeline, which is like the big thing that has changed, right?
Yes.
Then I'll bring up this infographic, and we call it from the linear agent, which was the old way of building, to this multi-agent team. But perhaps let's start with looking at the, how do I zoom like this?
Yes.
I wonder if this should be visible. Let's zoom in a bit more. Yeah, the old pipeline worked like this.
I mean the pipeline from a few days back.
Yeah.
It's not too old yet.
Yeah, now it's the old. It's more than 24 hours old.
Yes. Yes. So this pipeline was, once you submitted the prompt, you had a single agent that would unpack and do a lot of work. This agent was put over all this stress. And what this means is, imagine you are talking to a single person, and this person is supposed to build the whole company, and it's supposed to do all the functions. It's supposed to be the developer, the designer, the product manager. It's supposed to do all of it in one go. And it's supposed to specialize in all of these different things.
High risk of burnout.
Yes, it is. It's a high risk function. But that's what the single agent pipeline was about. And there we only kind of unpacked it into the build agent. That was the only thing. But as we did that, we also had, let's say, some constraints to it, because our backend agent was using, it was using fine-tuned models. So for those of you that do not know what it means that this agent was specialized in code generation, but it was not specialized in anything else. So now, if you wanted this backend agent to be able to reason about, let's say, the world outside, I only know about code. I don't know about anything else, right? So it was not able to take these abstract things and be able to unpack it. And then that was linear. So if that one failed, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Only if that one succeeded, then you would go into a front-end phase, which means that the UI of your application would get created. Now, while this UI got created, then it goes and checks a little bit about, is it quality? But quality here is tricky because it's very different than the quality we're checking now. Because quality here was checking primarily, is the code structurally in a good quality? It was not checking functionally the code. And this is the big key difference from the previous architecture and the architecture we have now. Because before, we're checking primarily, it looks good in terms of, structure, but not in terms of functionality. And then if all of these steps worked well, then it will go into a deployment phase. And there was a disconnect. And it's good actually you have this in different colors, because The deployment phase was not connected with the quality. So if deployment would fail for some reason, AI will not get this feedback. So the end user will be, well, it will be stuck on that phase. But now
Yes,
we
you
talked a little
might
bit.
say that you could end up being stuck in any of these phases, and users have been stuck in all of these phases, stuck in the build process, stuck in the deploy process, without really the possibility of being able to iterate and get out of their unstuckness. We advertise this as being the agentic way of building, and it is, right? But it's agentic. All these are separate agents, but it is in a sequential linear fashion. So it's required that every step succeeds.
Yes, I mean, but it's also important to note one thing, which is this the approach of building software and the approach of building products with agents. If you look back to it a few months back, right? This approach of with a single agent doing all of it, that was all that everybody had.
Yes.
And the problem, the AI world is moving at an extremely fast pace.
Yes, the
And
word agent orchestration did not exist before, like November 1st,
yes,
2025.
yes. And then all of these things started to appear that everybody's been using now, Cloud Code and Codex, and all of these platforms started to appear, introducing some of these things. And then you see things like people talking about, how can AI recover from errors? How can multiple agents cooperate? And so on. And now we go into, well, V3, which is bringing all of those learnings together into a product that can build complex things.
Yes.
And we applied all of those learnings. We collected a lot of metrics into things that were failing. And, well, we started to iterate. So it starts now with really the main agent. It's a conversational partner. It's really the agent that you can talk to it. You can, well, ask questions about caffeine. You can ask questions about different things about the real world. You can ask questions about the internet computer and how it differentiates. You'll be able to ask questions about, I saw in the chat people talking about cloud engines. So be able to ask questions about these things soon. All of these things will be there, and it will be like your conversational partner. But the nice thing about this conversational partner is that you'll be able to then say, hey, well, I want to build this thing now. And so it kind of sends back enough context for a composer. And the composer is really, if you look at it in terms of how a company works, that will be the person in the company that you go to talk to tell your requirements. And the composer will say, okay, I got your requirements. Let me bring in this person, which in this case is the PM. And the PM will say, okay, let's clarify those requirements. And so the composer...
To me, the composer and the PM sounds a little bit like the same person, but I get a sense that they do perform quite different roles here, right?
Yes, they do. Yes. The PM focuses primarily on breaking down the tasks and understanding the context that's necessary. And the composer orchestrates these things. So the composer, you can think of it like the composer does not want to load in its head, load in its brain all of this context, because otherwise it will get confused. So what the composer does is, well, it dispatches other agents that will do those things for itself, right? So it will say, hey, okay, the user is asking to do this thing. Let's first discover what they already have. So it uses a discovery agent, and this agent will be able to unpack what the application already have, right? And this is very important because this means that it works from, well, greenfield projects, but also brownfield projects, because it will now work on existing projects and it can understand. So it means that you can actually have high complexity projects and you'll be able to target exactly what you want to change. Then after you get it, after the result is returned, the PM then has enough context to make decisions. And then the PM will make decisions, will say, how can I break this down? And it also makes decision on, okay, the user is asking maybe sometimes some things that is a bit ambiguous. So it will be able to ask back, okay, I have these things that I've been thinking so far, and let's ask the user, is that something that you want? And ask the user back, can you clarify? Do you want to go version A, B, or C? And it does this kind of back and forth to start to build something. After it gets enough context, then it kind of creates a plan. And this is what you see here, these waves. So it creates requirements and it creates acceptance criteria. So for those of you that are not from the product world, it will create things like the user needs to be able to click sign in and they can sign in into the application. The user needs to be able to buy this product and add it into the shopping cart. It will create these acceptance criteria and it will pass it along. The composer then, what it will do, well, it will compose and break this down, and it knows how it can leverage things. It knows is this pipeline something that is complex, that I need to spin up many different agents, or is this a targeted fix? So maybe you just want to change the color, or maybe you just want to change the title. Now I can just directly target a single agent, change this for the user. Or if it's complex, I want to build this thing from scratch, or I want to add this complex feature, a new page, for example, and so on, then it breaks this down into many waves, and then it starts to operate. And here, I think the important piece is the orchestration starts by thinking about how the user would, let's say, look at the application, right? So we have a design phase, and this design phase describes the application in branding terms. So it creates, you might see if you're building with Caffeine that now you have a design MD file. And there it captures branding guidelines, colors, typography that it should use in the application. And it's all then taken into account.
Sorry, before we go into that, perhaps we should touch on the discovery phase a little bit more, because I believe that is super interesting, or how it affects the amount of tokens we use and how much of the context window we use.
Yes, of course. So the discovery phase will read a lot, and it will read files. It will read to understand what the application already has. It will read to understand connections, right? So you may be touching on this page, will touch on things on the other page, right? It will understand dependencies. All of these things that it needs to read. But after it understands it, it can produce a summary of that phase and give it back. So all of the exploration phase can be dropped, and it doesn't need to confuse the composer in this case. So the main person that's orchestrating things doesn't need to get confused with exploration. It can just focus on the conclusion, right? So it's like you want to see the final product. You don't want to see how the team spent 6 months building that product. You want to iterate on the final thing. And that's really how the orchestration now manages that we can build more complex things. It summarizes things often and gives, well, contracts, learnings, and all of these things.
Yeah, and this is a radical shift that the context window does not get more and more gradually consumed over time as you are building, and you don't end up in this position where you have filled up the context window, and then the quality of the model starts to radically decrease, go down, because it's doesn't have any more tokens to work with.
I mean, to translate context window for those that are not technical, what you would see really is, you can imagine, like, if you throw Caffeine into an application that's quite small, right? Maybe the context window will not be a problem because it will be able to load everything and just see everything. But if you throw Caffeine into your HR dashboard, where you manage the employees and you manage payments and you manage all of that, there's so many interconnected pieces that you need to load all of that and understand all the pages and everything, how it works before you can do anything. The problem with this is, now if you want to edit a title, you need to first understand the entire application before you can do that. Yeah. With this approach, we don't need to do that. We can really be targeted.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the design phase. Or
yes. Yes. So on the design phase, so if you ask, I guess just in the example we're just talking about, this HR dashboard, you want it to look good, and you want it to be on brand, and you want things to be consistent. But it's not the responsibility of the technical person implementing that to do all of that. So in this case, we have a specialized agent that worries about those things for the user. It takes user preferences and requirements, but it also, well, takes inspiration. It takes presets. It takes things that were on brand and things that are usual in the industry and applies those things for the generated application. So you would see that, well, maybe a sidebar should close in a certain way. Maybe there should be an overlay. Maybe there should be like something related to the brand. There should be something unique for the application. And it's all then defined, and a design MD is defined that then gets applied. And the front end agent, so the UI agent, will be able to then follow those recommendations. Then, yeah.
Yeah, I thought maybe we could touch a little bit on the contracts and the learnings. I mean, this is a technical concept, but it's still super interesting to just briefly describe it.
Yes. The real idea is, let's first talk about contracts, and then we talk a little bit about the learnings. On the contracts part is how can we summarize and create structured ways that we communicate? How can you create these formats of communication that is, well, structured and efficient? And you want me to be able to be efficient talking to you so that you can unpack the important pieces of information. And that's exactly what these contracts do. It creates these structured formats that agents use to talk to each other. And because of these, they can be efficient to focus on the important things. Now, there will be times, including in these contracts, where things fail, right? And that's where learnings is important. And here I think an analogy is important. Like you figured once you have these times where you try something for hours and hours and hours, and then you get stuck, and then you go for a shower, and you forget about things for a minute, and then you get this idea, aha, maybe I can build this, right? But then you already forget all these other things that you're focusing on and going through this tunnel vision of trying a different approach that was not working. That's where these learnings really are important. And this is how we kind of let agents retry and get learnings to, with the fresh context, with a fresh mind, be able to iterate on things. So the previous version was able to, well, go into this path, it was not working, and it learned that maybe these 5 approaches that I already tried were not working. Now it failed, it says, okay, I failed. So it asks back, and the composer will be able to say, okay, you can try again. You already tried these 5 things, right? You don't remember all the other things that kind of bloated, that got you confused. Now you can be very targeted into retrying these things.
And doesn't this also allow for a back and forth between backend and front end building? So essentially that to describe it from a really high level, the backend builder builds, the backend and describes to the orchestrator what it has built in the form of a contract. And then the front end builder takes over, looks at this contract, and then it starts building. And then it after a bit, it realizes that no, I need more stuff from the back end. I'm missing a field, or I'm missing some data or something that I thought I would need have. I don't have that. So then it would give that information back to the composer as a learning, saying like, I need something that I don't have access to, and the composer would ask the backend again to go back and add that missing field, and then you would have another iteration, a new loop. All the while with these agents getting a fresh context window and just detailed instructions and just the context they need to solve the task at each time.
Yes, and it, by the way, it doesn't end there, right? Like, for example, let's say it thinks everything is working. Then we go into this QA phase that also gets more learnings, right? Because that's where we really test functionally and visually how the app looks, right? So here we test functionally. Maybe if I click on this button, we'll actually add this product to the cart. Or if I'm looking at the landing page, is the text readable on this background, right?
Yeah.
It can visually see that. It can take screenshots. And then it can take those learnings and send it back again to be fixed. And I think this is really where kind of things really jump in terms of complexity and improvements, because now we can really test, okay, structurally it looks okay and everything works, but functionally maybe not. And now it can kind of pass down those learnings to fix it as well.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the deploy phase. And this is another step that could fail. Now, we also connected this into the pipeline. So if deployment fails for some reason, the agent as well will get the learning and it will be able to retry. And so you can think of all the steps of the way now. There's learnings passing back. There's always a chance for the agent to fix.
Yeah, and the orchestrator does not leave, or sorry, the composer does not leave the pipeline until the deploy is finished, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's, of course, cases where maybe after a lot of time, well, you get stuck, right? But in those cases, it will tell you, well, I couldn't do this, and these are the suggested next steps.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really your pair person there that's kind of guiding you through building this product, building this application, and it's trying to really help you achieve something valuable. So yes, I mean, right now you will see for yourselves as you try Caffeine. Hopefully you like as you're building things. If you don't, well, we're always here to listen and learn. And you've seen how we moved from V1 to V2 to V3 and applied many learnings we got from everybody that's been using Caffeine so far. We will do the same with V3 and apply those learnings as well and improve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is a good segue into sort of the end, taking us toward the end of this live stream. We have been going for like 47 minutes. So you touched upon a little bit like how V3 sets us up for the future, right? We have now this solid foundation that we can more easily add to, right?
Yes, it's the foundation for the application. It's also the foundation for Caffeine itself to expand its product range. So you'll see now the marketplace. Well, now that you can build more complex applications, you can publish them to the marketplace and have others build on top of them. So you'll be able to now create this self-fulfilling loop of creating complex applications, others take from it and then build upon it. So I think it connects with what you're talking really in the beginning of how this type of applications like Caffeine enable now the creative mind of all of us to be able to create things and build upon each other. And we will see this loop now with the marketplace as well, as we added people with the ability to publish their applications there. Others can remix from there and build on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope that we get to this Apple App Store moment, sort of, because that is the one of the major factors preventing people in general, even developers, from realizing and creating projects is the headaches with distributing the projects. And that is what Apple solved when they first launched the App Store, that now you don't need to run a startup, you don't need to do your own hosting, you don't need to come up with your own payment solutions. And I mean, all this stuff is like 100 times more complex than to build this small application that you want to build.
Yes. And on top of all of that, people will have their aha moment of being able to do all of that, and then the understanding, well, actually now you also own everything end to end.
Yeah.
Because it's deployed into this internet computer, which is different from things that is out there, and soon will be cloud engines, so be able to control a lot better how those things are connected together, how they scale. So yeah, it's exciting times, really.
Yeah. I noted yeah, at least one additional thing on the future list here. We said teams. Anything you care to?
We will, yes. I think so far, the way to publish things in Caffeine, right, has been in this marketplace, but the chat itself and so on has been really for a solo person building there. And we are now moving into the direction of actually being able to also support teams. It's not yet there, but it will be there soon. And the idea is, well, I finish my day, maybe Kristofer, maybe somebody that's from the US can, well, now start continuing where I left off. So I'll be able to kind of share, have this co-ownership of a project, and people will be able to iterate on the same project and add features, talk about it, and really be able to, as a team, iterate on it. I think this is also going to be, very exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting, because of course a huge potential market is the enterprise market, or where you as a small company or a team inside your company want to create tools for your organization, and that doesn't make sense in the and that you would have to publish it under your own personal account. So then we need team accounts. Yeah, 51 minutes. Maybe this is a good time to stop. What do you say? Any parting words?
Well, I hope everybody likes V3. The challenges you have, do not hesitate to share them, because, well, we just drive as a community if people share things, and we can improve the product primarily based on the feedback that we get. So we take it seriously, and we take it into the product roadmap quite seriously. So yeah.
Yes, we are always listening, and we are super excited to see what you build. And thank you everyone for watching, and see you next time.
Thanks, Kristofer.